Right, this is going out live on LinkedIn, so no swearing, anybody. Yeah. So you've got to rewrite your script, haven't you, Andy? Yeah. Right. Good morning, everybody. Can you all hear me? Excellent. Excellent. Get those last headphones on. No falling asleep, Troy. I know you had a big night last night, but no falling asleep. Right. Good morning. Thank you very much for coming to our stage this morning. We are EHE Venture Studios, and we are here today to talk about more than capital. But just before we kick off, I want to introduce EHE to you because yesterday we got told at the end of all our talks we didn't talk enough about EHE, and yet we didn't think we were here to talk about EHE. So I'm going to talk more about EHE. EHE stands for Entrepreneurs Helping Entrepreneurs. So our whole business model is based around a team of people who've been there, seen it, done it, got all the scars to go with it. But we are there now for the founders, the new founders that are out there, to help them develop, grow, and build their business. We're also a venture business. So we've also got a fund, an AI fund, which invests in some very exciting new technologies that are coming out. But in this session, we're going to talk about more than capital, because we feel quite strongly that just handing over a check for a sum of money isn't enough. There's much, much more to it than that. So what I've done is we've pulled together a panel of people here, both from within EHE, but also from within our ecosystem, to help us sort of talk through that topic. I'm going to let them all introduce themselves, because you'll do better justice to yourselves than I will. So I'm going to start. Heather, if you'd like to start, talk about yourself.
Good morning. So my name's Heather Waters. I'm I work for the Greater Manchester Growth Hub, and I work in the Access to Finance team. So my role is to be out and about in the ecosystem, meeting the people who've got the funds, understanding actually who they're looking for, and the flip side of that, we actually work to help businesses actually be ready to access funds as well.
Morning. This looks like some weird kind of silent disco thing, so I'm slightly alarmed. People with green ears is just really bizarre. So I'm Andy Round. My background is I was an academic, not a very good one. Had a small startup. We raised about 75 million, ended up on AIM. And I'm ancient now, so that was back in 97 when fundraising was easy. Did that for a number of years, and then spent a year in the US and a year in Tokyo helping mainly large companies acquire small ones. Before moving to the dark side. So I've now been doing venture for probably about 20 years. I know you can't believe it, maybe 5, but about 20 years, mainly in healthcare, and anything really from kind of 50K all the way upwards to about, I think the largest sort of single transactions were kind of like 10, 15 million. Now that I'm ancient, I've actually got a couple of eggs under my belt. So largest one today was $500 million to a company called Stryker that made medical devices. And currently I'm one of the investment directors at Deepbridge. So we manage in the region of about 300 million under management, raise on a good year about 40, 50 million, on a not so good year, and we're having some not so good years that we could talk about, probably in the region of kind of 10 to 15. And mainly that's through sort of EIS vehicles or SCIS vehicles. Happy to talk about anything, actually. If you want, a view as to a failed entrepreneur, you can ask me what it's like to be a failed entrepreneur, and equally we can have a happy chat about the joys of venture capital and its pros and cons. I'm quite happy to do that. It's not a one side, it's not for everybody kind of fit either.
Thank you, Andy. I think we should have invited you on the founder fuck up talk yesterday. You could have added to that. Okay, my name's Guy Remond. I'm one of the co-founders, along with my business partner Gary Fletcher, of EHE. And as Simon kind of alluded to, we're going to talk about venture studios actually as part of this talk. So I'm not going to go into any detail on that now, because I'll kind of jump the gun, which I am actually famous for. But EHE is made up of people that have kind of taken an idea through to exit, and they've been successful. Sort of 9 figure sum exits, in Gary's case, multiple times. You know, Simon didn't introduce himself, but he's you know, really successful, exited digital marketing agency entrepreneur. So we're building a community of successful people that can add value to the as well as money to the companies that we support along their journey, and that's great for hopefully for the entrepreneurs. We maximize their chance of success, but it's also great for our investments, so that we make a little bit of money at the end of the journey as well.
That's brilliant. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the intro. I think staying where you two were talking there, we'll come straight back to you two. As I said at the beginning, handing over a check to somebody, it's not the answer, is it? It's not the answer. So what is it about what Deepbridge offer and what about EHE offer that really envelops a founder to actually give them the real support that they need?
Sure, I'll do the EHE sell first, which is always quite funny considering you're not from them. But I mean, what I've got out of something like EHE as an investor, and being totally candid as well, is, you know, I'm a healthcare investor, so this kind of black box, more tech orientated AI machine learning piece is quite alien to me. So what I've gained through some of the investments we've done with EHE is, as an investor, an understanding of actually that's not bad. What they've created is actually pretty good, or actually it's a bit shit. And maybe if they'd done it like this and improved it like this. And at the same time, I've enjoyed doing things with EHE along the lines of their group are really well qualified. They're super at doing the dev side, and their business model, or the sort of venture model of being a venture investor with some cash to do some equity investing alongside an investor, but actually having some real experts on the side of which I know nothing about, has actually been a real benefit to me. I really must admit, I really like these kind of blended kind of venture type models. For us as Deepbridge, and actually I'd probably even take Deepbridge out of it, for me as an investor, you know, it's all well and good having capital that you can provide companies with. When I look back through my catalogue of mistakes, and there are probably more failures than successes, some of the key things that always come out is, you know, I suppose investors' ability to kind of support companies with that more than money. And the more than money piece is a bit cheesy, but it is, you know, the ability to look at their strategy and help them with that piece at the relatively early stage. It's the ability to kind of find people you can wrap around them, because a lot of the things we do that are relatively early stage, they're normally founder-led, and they're normally technology founder-led. So it's been able to kind of piece a team together over a period of time. I find myself, even in my role, being corporate finance advisor more than investor. I may do the first round and do the investment, but I'm pretty much on the hook for helping them find, you know, the next round of cash, coming to things like this. I mean, even yesterday, I had 5 portfolio companies. I didn't go to many events. I just walked them round, going, speak to that person, speak to that person. There's a nice person. Don't bother with them. Bother with this one. And it's just, you know, you're part of the environment. Again, when you get as old as I am, it's you've got to view quickly as to where you should point people. Sorry, long-winded out, Sam.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, Andy's done a really nice job of, and I'm going to reciprocate in a second, by the way. Really nice job of, you know, explaining about EHE. You know, we do have genuine technical expertise. My background is building a successful software company, which we sold in 2017 to a large video streaming organization. We were an internal resource for them, a very specialist engineering team. So we've got that technical background, and we've got a team of engineers in Manchester. We're trying to stay ahead of the curve. There's lots of changes with AI at the moment in the software world. You know, the roles of junior engineers have been replaced by some of the AI products that are coming along. So we're having to readjust ourselves like everybody else. So we're no different. So we've got the tech capability. As Simon said, we've got the funds, so we have some money, and we have the people with lots of kind of experience to try and guide and help. And like Andy, honestly, we all entrepreneurs will have more scars than they have badges, but it's the badges that count, right? But the scars you learn from, and they help you achieve the badges. So really important part of it. Now, what I will say is that I think particularly prevalent in the north, all the investment community work together. Everyone's really friendly. Doesn't always happen in other parts of the country without kind of naming names. But in the north, we all work together because we can pull resource, we can pull expertise. Where we're weak in some areas, people like Deepbridge and Andy are experienced in other areas. So we can help each other, and that is loud and clear. The fact that Andy sat next to me, but there's any number of other investors in sort of the northwest that Andy could name and I could name that could be sat there and here, and we would say the same things. We complement each other, and we work together for the better to improve the chances of startups in the northwest.
Brilliant. So, and then from your point of view, Heather, that's probably quite music to your ears, isn't it? Is to hear that there's that sort of cooperation going on in our region. How do you, from the founders that you meet, how do you think they see it in terms of working with investors?
Yeah, so I work very, very early stage. So, I've got one of my colleagues with it. We spend a lot of time with the people. I've got an idea, I've got something, and literally that's mostly what they've got. AI is very much the one at the moment. So every day there's another AI idea, and they're all quite valid. So knowing who actually supports them in the ecosystem, so that specific sector, and what sector they come from as well. So it's understanding who's got the money, who's actually investing in the pre-seed stage, which is not that many people. And the second part, how to get the right support. So we offer some support, but it's very sector agnostic what we do. We help on the funding plan, going further than funding, but actually who else can make it happen. So whether they've got the technical expertise and they haven't got the sector expertise, or they've got the sector expertise and they need someone to help build the AI, it's understanding how they can take it further. So knowing who's doing that and actually meet more people doing the investment side. But again, it is very much the pre-revenue side of things. So for us, we do our part. The Growth Hub can do their part. We have got some sector support in there, and we've got innovation grants, things like that we can help with. But they need more than that. So it's actually how they get the rest of that support to take it forward.
Yeah, it's cool. Have you got anything to say about that? Yeah, no, that's fine. No, that's fine. So back to the venture studio, which I know you've taken on there. Why is that the direction of travel we're going in? Why is that the direction of travel people should be going in?
I think the whole market seems to be moving to isn't this a Patora catchphrase, more than money? But the whole market's moving to kind of that philosophy. So I think the days of just providing cash have gone. There are points, by the way, that you will just provide cash, and that's fine. But I think more and more people are looking for investors who add much more than just cash. They need help along the way, particularly at the early stage that we're at. No entrepreneur, particularly first-time entrepreneur, comes in knowing everything about the journey they're going on. In fact, you probably know about 5-10%. I did. I was as green as they come when I started my company. I made so many mistakes, but you kind of find your feet, you learn, and you kind of you move forward. So I think having companies, whether that be the EHE Venture Studio, whether it be Deepbridge, Patora, whoever it is, who don't just provide money, but provide, whether it be technical support, we can build the stuff that we invest in. So we intrinsically understand AI products. We can lift the hood on stuff that's being built. Some of the investees that we've supported currently, we've lifted the hood and we found quite a few issues, but we've helped them. We haven't said, well, you got, your tech's dreadful. You need to go away and sort it. What we've done is said, look, we found a few issues. We can help with that, and we've helped them get all the ducks lined up from a tech due diligence point of view, so that they're going in the right direction of travel. And we can do that commercially. We can do that. The finance side is so important. One of the first hires for me, for most startups, has to be a fractional FD, because you need somebody to say no. Well, I do. If I see a shiny thing, I go out and buy it. And I need someone to say, Guy, you can't buy another shiny thing. You need to concentrate on the stuff that really matters. So it's those kind of things where you can add significant value. And we've got partners, we've got partners in the room, a couple of people from Infinity who help us manage the fund. And for the right reasons, they're very good at pointing out what we should and shouldn't do, so that we stay the right side of all the FCA rules and regulations. So I think every startup and every company needs people like that to keep you on the straight and narrow, so that you can make risky decisions, but you make informed risky decisions. And there's nothing wrong with failing. That risky decision might not work, and you kind of either just pivot and change it, or you go, do you know what, it's just a really bad idea. I talked about those yesterday. And you move on and you don't worry about it, and then you try the next thing. And that's what separates startups from corporates. Corporates, generally the culture is that if you make a mistake and you waste a ton of money, then you get chastised for that. Whereas with startups, if you've made an informed choice and it doesn't quite work out, that's fine. You move on, you learn from it, you move on.
Thank you. And then to Andy, in terms of this venture studio model which we've got, and you've been very, very sort of positive about it, thank you very much. Is it something you could see other businesses getting into? For instance, could you see, where your current business, could you see other VCs following our lead?
Your lead, yeah, you're right. And actually, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's although sometimes it looks like it's a new model, it's everything's cyclical, isn't it? As well, these sort of different permutations of roughly the same thing come around again. The US has been probably a little bit better at these sorts of things for a number of years, and you're right. You can kind of divide it into, I call it squidgy and non-squidgy, so the health and non-health. I think even within our ecosystem, where we're predominantly a venture firm, so we can help to an extent. Most good early stage VCs may not have a formal program like you guys do, but they do have a list of people that they will suggest, and there's suggestion, and then there's go and speak to these people who can kind of build out a lot of what they're trying to develop. So even here, I've got 5 lawyers that I wouldn't go anywhere else if you were an early stage company. Same with fractional CFOs, same with medtech developers. So you end up kind of building your own kind of, I suppose, environment and ecosystem rather than having something formal. I think the formal ones are really good, because at the end of the day, and again, it's just symptomatic of early stage capital in the UK at the moment, there's not a lot of it. Cash needs to go as far as it possibly can. If you've got the ability to raise cash, but at the same time, and I wouldn't say, discount the development, but you've got a bunch of developers that you actually get on with and understand they're going to do a good job. So you potentially don't have to go through a few cycles, and we've probably all done it. Go through a few cycles where you get to the end and go, well, that was a bit shit. I've already paid for it, and I'm already happy with the quality, and then you're having to start again. So you go through these, and again, it's early stage companies, isn't it? You can't know everybody, and you can't know the quality of what you're going to get, particularly if you're new and you're starting up. So I've done a few where we've done bits overseas, it hasn't really worked. We've done bits in the UK, it hasn't really worked. You find an amazing group and it works really, really well. And sometimes it's like, well, I can't really distinguish why, other than maybe one came through a referral. So there's all that kind of machination going on in early stage land. The other thing as well is we talked about it in terms of partnership. There's not enough early stage capital to basically move things on significantly. So you either got to have a reasonably big fund that wants to do early stage. There aren't that many. Or you've got to syndicate pretty hard with a number of smaller funds to basically have enough cash to actually move those businesses on. It's kind of a long-winded way of saying you really got to partner early. And I do think that people have tried to do sort of different versions of the same thing in kind of different sectors. There's even Gritstone have got their own sort of accelerator program for various things. Andy Roberts has got one that Bruntwood basically run out of Alderley Park. So there's quite a lot of them, and again, they all vary in terms of degree of support and actual quality of support and how far they're going to go. But there's certainly a home for several different versions of what you guys have created. I'd just like you to raise more money. It'd be great.
Shall I ask Heather that if she's going to help us raise some more money?
I'd love to help you raise some more money. I just reflect on what you're saying from being from an ecosystem point of view. I mean, I always talk about you kiss loads of frogs to find your princes. It's actually, as you say, who are the right people, who are the good people. I've already had one conversation this morning with a similar kind of setup to EHE, sort about going, who I wouldn't touch, who would go to. Did you hear about this bad story? Back to your panel last night, the things that can go wrong. So we've all got examples of businesses that have raised to use a tech, offshore possibly because it seemed like the right idea, a bit cheaper, raised again, and then found actually the tech doesn't work. So they've wasted the money that they told the investor who's, they're getting the money twice to actually build something. And at the end of the second round, they still haven't got what they actually were going to spend the first round of money on. So we've heard those stories, and having someone who actually, we've tested these people, we've got that knowledge, we've got the expertise. It's almost like a safer pair of hands to go to. Because if you're not that connected into this world, and I think it goes like back to background, and people having those social connections, if they don't know, then they can really spend a lot of time wandering around. The person got a really good idea, it never gets off the ground because they never found the right person to work with. So that's the strength of the ecosystem, actually, people connected and signposting each other.
Yeah, I just want to pick up on that because that's a really good point, and I haven't spoken about that in any of the talks I've done so far. That it's very tempted as an entrepreneur to go to the low cost offshore companies that promise you the earth. Now, don't get wrong, there's always some good companies out there, but there's way more terrible companies, and it's a real risk. And I think we see it so often where companies come to us and they've either tried and failed to build offshore, or they've built something which they think's okay, and then you look at it and you go, if you want to scale, we need to completely rewrite this. The architecture's all wrong. The coding quality is really poor. You can't. There's no kind of documentation attached. No engineer can come in and jump in and build on what you've had produced. It's just impossible. So it's just, I would always try and avoid going offshore. It's a lot harder to manage, if nothing else. If you've never run a tech project before, it's very difficult to manage an offshore team and guarantee the quality. So you're always better doing it onshore, being able to sit with the engineering team, talk to them every couple of weeks, get them to show you what they've done. Have them allow someone that you've brought in to check the code quality every 2-4 weeks to make sure what they're building for you is of the standard that they promised, because otherwise it'll either fail or it'll be a complete rewrite, and all the money you put into it will be wasted. Final point on that is that investors are getting wise to that. Investors have been stung by really poor quality code before, so they're way more aware of it. So if you turn around and say, yeah, I've had my platform built offshore, then actually that's it's a minus point when an investor is considering investment in you. So in the longer term, almost always when you do that, when you make that move, it's detrimental to what you're trying to achieve.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Right, I'm going to ask if anybody's got any questions. I'm loving these sessions. I love the candidness of everybody, on the stage to, really get into the detail behind, why these things matter. So has anyone got any questions before we finish and round up? Oh, yeah, hang on.
Hi. What's the average cost to somebody working with you in terms of, say, dilution? The average check size maybe up to 250. What's like a typical amount that you've been with recent investment?
It's horrible hearing yourself like that. So when you say 250, so are you saying 250 is the figure that you want to raise to build whatever you're building and have a little bit of money to do other stuff with as well? It is genuinely one of those. How long's a piece of string? So when we're doing there's two ways that we invest. We invest through sweat equity when we're building the tech system, the AI. So if an entrepreneur comes to us and says, we've got a great idea, we've got a great team, and we want to build this thing, and we say, okay, we like you guys, and we believe in you, and we like the idea. We think it's got legs. It's a lot more to it than that. I'm just kind of, for brevity, just skipping over a lot of the stuff that happens. Then we'll say, okay, we'll do a part cash, part sweat equity deal at that point. So we'll agree a valuation. If it's a blue sky idea, it can be anything from depending on the experience of the entrepreneur, to the team that they've got around them, and various things. But it can be anything. The valuation will typically be between 250 and $1 million, typically. And I think one of the ways that you can get around that now is I don't think you'll need as much to build a POC or an MVP as you used to be able to. So we can use AI tools to build a very quick POC that you can then use to test the market with, get feedback, and when you do that, then you'll come back to the investors and say, look, I built this. This is the feedback I've had from the market. So we've kind of tested the market. People are broadly happy with what we've done, and they're prepared to pay good money for it. That's a very different conversation to if you had nothing and you just say, look, I'm brilliant. I've got a brilliant idea. Give us some money. It's a very different conversation. So I'd encourage people now, the first stage is to build a POC. Now you can do that yourself using AI tools, or you can bring people like my team in, and we can build you something really quickly, really cheaply. Might cost you 5 or 10 grand. You can go out there, you can test the market, then you can come to the fund then for proper investment, or go to Deepbridge, or we partner with Deepbridge and we put more money in, because your valuation will be slightly higher at that point because you've de-risked it. So at every stage, take the minimum number, the amount of money you need, but don't sell yourself short at the same time. Get your valuation to a point that you're happy, and then go for the bigger chunks of change to allow you to get to the high growth kind of stage. So I think nowadays you should do small stages, and prove the idea, the concept at each stage along the way, giving away as little equity as possible, and then saving the equity really for the bigger raises.
Oh, a couple of other questions. Yeah, very, very quickly.
Well, I'm good. Thank you for everything you've shared. I suppose my question is, okay, yeah, I've taken mine off because it's horrible. My question is kind of two-sided. So firstly, when you're thinking about supporting businesses, how much do you care about or look at the structure that they've got internally, how resilient they are, how well they've considered how the people side of the business is going to grow? So how much do you care about that? And then if you do care about that a lot, how do you support businesses to get that right?
Sorry, I had a very similar question, so I just wanted to add on to the same thing. Are there any like non-negotiables where you just go, look, we can't consider this because of either the commercial plan, the tech, the people, the product market? I don't know, any of those things where you go, this is just not going to work because we've got a little gap there. So I think it's fairly similar.
I mean, in my experience, most companies fail, or most of my failures have normally been people related. Those are normally my bigger frustrations. I don't mind investing in things where the technology doesn't make it, and I don't mind doing things that are kind of ones or zeros. That's kind of where I exist in the so it's in the venture world. Relatively early stage, and if they don't get there technically, that's okay. But genuinely, most of the ones that have failed over the years, with some quite substantial sums of money in, have tended to fail through, founders having a bust up with founders having a bust up with investors having a squabble with investors, or the businesses having a squabble with potential clients or customers or exit partners. Those are the ones that unravel quite quickly. So your question on how much do we care? Incredibly. But but also there has to be a bit of a sensible understanding with people as well, that and again, it's just the reality of the world. What you find is that a lot of early stage companies tend to come with technical founders. Those technical founders may be leading the business. They probably won't be leading the business after 4 or 5 years, and those people that replace them or come in to supplement them probably won't be the same people who are leading the business in the next 10 or 15 years. So for me, there's a couple of really easy red flags, really easy on. Will they take advice and listen? And you can pretty much work that out within, I know I said the first 40 seconds, but you probably can. There's probably another little thing in there as well of, do I actually think I can spend a significant amount of time with these people? There is a bit of a statistic going around at the moment that the average hold time for a UK investor in a relatively early stage business is longer than a marriage. And being on to my few of those, I'm probably better at picking companies than I am picking wives. But there is that, and it is a genuine relationship, and it's a tricky one as well, because think about it, we're lending money or being given money by our investors, so we've got that relationship to manage, that up relationship. We're then giving you money to do X, Y, and Z, with a view that at some point in time you're going to be successful and we'll get it back, but we'll get more than what we gave you back. So there's always that friction between those things, and the reality is, not everything's going to run smoothly. It never does. There aren't many. I think I've done one out of maybe the 180 or so investments I've done over the years, where every board meeting you go to and they've just exceeded it every time. The reality is they don't really exceed it. You've kind of got to fix a lot of stuff. When you get a bit further down the other end, so when you get more sort of, I suppose, tier 1 VCs or PE, that's a completely different marketplace. They're looking at a different team structure. By then, you may have a sensible kind of trading history you can look at as well. So they're completely different dynamics at those different stages. But the basic answer is, at the early stage, yeah, you've got to have a sensible rapport and relationship with those people early on. If you don't, it tends to unravel. And that's why Michael, who sat on the front, needs to just be quiet. Don't ask him any questions. Don't ask him if he gets on with me or anything else.
So I 100% agree with everything Annie's just said. The people are the most important thing. It's the first thing we always look at. And I want to pick up on a couple of things very quickly. One is that it's like the Mike Tyson quote, everyone has a plan till you get punched in the face. And I think, what we're looking for in founders, one of the key attributes is that founders will listen and they are prepared to change, because I tell you now, startup is not a smooth journey. Andy's 1 in 180 is probably about right. Everybody has a plan, but usually the plan doesn't go to plan, and therefore you have to be agile, you have to listen, you have to consider various things and change that plan accordingly and pivot and do whatever you have to do. So that's the first point. Second point is that, not every founder will end up as CEO. Andy said that. A founder has a unique ability. And the unique ability may be that they're going to lead the team all the way through to exit. But actually, usually, their unique ability is in a specialism within the domain that they're experts in. And it might not be leading a team through to the conclusion, the exit. So there'll be a point when, the founder, and I've just done this at EHE, we've appointed Neil as our CEO. So, and I've always led my companies before. This is the first time. It took me a little bit of time to adjust to my role now, but I know what I need to do. I know what I'm good at. And, did he? Yeah. Yeah. Understand what your unique ability is and build a team around you to be, to support that unique ability. An FD is one of the first things that I'd be looking at to help you. My weakness is figures. So I need a strong FD to help me with that and just give me the headlines that I need to know to run the business.
Brilliant, thank you. That was a great question, and I think very well answered. I think that's all we've got time for, I'm afraid. Is that right? Are we out of time? Just give me a chance to say that at past we've got another very, very frank conversation with 2 people from the legal world who have stood out there I don't know what they're doing. They're, anyway, so if you want to hang on for 11:30, please do. But I just want to say thank you to Heather, to Andy, and to Guy for their frank comments. Thank you very much.